think, first of all, we've seen quite how devastating drones can be in this war, really changed our perspective of war and some of the capabilities we need to defend against. And drones have been quite incredible, the amount of damage that they can do. We have seen at the moment, Russia is firing over 500 drones and missiles a day at civilian sites in Ukraine. And this is very much the sort of Russian playbook. I saw it at close hand in Syria, where the Russians seem to think if they destroy enough civilian targets and kill enough civilians, then the population will capitulate and give up. And the extension of this drone campaign is very worrying. Certainly at the very beginning of the war, all we had was very expensive air defense missiles to fire at these relatively cheap drones. And what Putin is talking about now is really the Shahed drone, which is an Iranian drone, very capable, very simple, that is now being built in Russian factories. And I think the Russians have shown these sort of state-of-the-art factories producing these drones. But when we're talking about sort of 2,000 at a time, that will at the moment overwhelm the air defense available to Ukrainians. The 500 drones and missiles that were fired last night, about 90 to 95% of them are destroyed in the air. But when it comes to, 4 times that amount, then 4 times that amount at least are going to get through and have a damage. So it's a real concern. And I think it is timely that the European countries that are supporting Ukraine are meeting today. And we're expecting the UK Defence Minister, John Healey, to encourage European countries to up their provision of weapons, particularly as we're now well into the 50 days that President Trump has given Putin to come to the negotiation table. But this additional news coming out of Russia, these drones, is a huge concern. And it's something that we need to support the Ukrainians in as much as possible to try and enable them to shoot these drones down in the air before they can hit civilian targets, which most of them are aimed at. Well, I think we've all been following this very, very closely, and the British Strategic Defence Review, announced only a few weeks ago, focused on the fact that 80% of lethality, in other words, 80% of the capability in defence we need in future, is drones of a varying degree. Britain in the past invested in very expensive, very capable drones. However, we've seen if you lose a £5 million drone, that is a big dent in your capability, whereas the sort of drones we're talking about, 500 to £1,000 a shot, and 2,000 of them are probably more effective than a couple of the big, capable ones. So I think we are learning that very quickly. What has been slow to catch up is the air defense. It's all very well firing $1 million missile at a $5 million drone. That seems like a good ratio, but you can't fire these $1 million missiles at $500 drones. You just not get enough of them. Now, a lot of work's been done, particularly by Britain, to create capabilities enhanced by AI, so that you can attack multiple targets. And the Defence Science Lab at Porton Down, we understand are developing lasers where you could, through AI, shoot 2,000 drones down without any challenge. But at the moment, that we're not quite there. But certainly what Britain can do is to enable Ukraine to be able to take down these mass drones. When it comes to the Russians, I think, we're about 40 days away from Trump, in theory, putting these massive sanctions and tariffs on Russia, which would really strangle its economy. And I expect Putin probably realizes that, which is why he's going all out to do as much as he can in the next 40 days. And that's why it's so crucial that actually the European countries meeting today recognize that, because a destroyed Ukraine in 40 days' time is not going to be a great place for people to live in. So, I think the European NATO countries should go even further. What the biggest concern is these thousands of drones Yeah, attacking. We're hearing overnight a kindergarten, a children's school has been destroyed. No way are they military targets. So, I would like to see European NATO countries also say, well, we will enable you, we'll help you to protect schools and hospitals, and other sites that have no military advantage to the Russians. And if that means having NATO jets firing missiles on the border to take down these drones, then that should be considered, because that is the only thing that will probably make Trump stop. So, yeah, I think the next 40 days are crucial, and Putin will try and get into a position of advantage so that when he does have to negotiate with the Ukrainians and Trump, he will have something to show for it. What we in the West must do is to make sure that Ukraine gets a just peace, and they're not hundreds of schools and hospitals and thousands of civilians killed and injured in the interim. Certainly, drones have been very effective. And in warfare, mass has a quality all of its own. And if Russia is planning to, send over 2,000 drones every day, then that could have a severe impact. I think, allied to that, what perhaps Ukraine will be focusing on is to try and destroy these drones at source, as it were. Um, Russia is showing off these new factories that are turning these drones out. No doubt there will be a lot of work going on to find out exactly where they are. And Ukraine needs long-range missiles like the British Storm Shadow, the French, the German Taurus missile, and probably US cruise missiles. So there will never be enough air defense, I don't think, to knock down 2,000 drones a day. But what is perhaps more possible is to take these factories out at source. And hopefully American and British and other intelligence is providing that detail to the Ukrainians. And as long as they have the long-range missiles that they appear to have now, then that might be the most effective way of taking them out. But yeah, if we don't do this, Putin can certainly make great strides. I think in 40 days, he's not going to be able to take Ukraine, because actually these drones are attacking schools and hospitals, but he's not actually taking ground. He would need to get soldiers. And we know that his army is what we call reached its culminating point. He's had 1 million casualties. He's had to buy 30,000 soldiers off North Korea. He's just running out of people, and you need people and tanks to actually take the ground. So I think that's way beyond him, but he's trying to cripple the Ukrainians so that, he is in a better position when they come to the negotiation table, hopefully in 40 days' time. And it's up to us in the West to make sure that actually it's Ukraine that is on the front foot, and Ukraine gets a just deal, because they are the ones who have suffered. They are the ones who were illegally invaded by Putin in the first place. Even President Trump now has realized that Putin has no interest in peace. His special military operation, the objective was the complete subjugation of Ukraine, and he's a long way from that. However, it would appear that Trump has now realized that Putin has been playing him for a fool for some time. The switching on of weapons to Ukraine will make a huge difference, particularly the long-range weapons that allows Ukraine to strike factories making drones and tanks, etc. So that is significantly important here. And the main thing I expect, and the 40 days or 50 days, as Trump said, the week before last, if Russia is strangled by sanctions and tariffs, not even Putin can make drones without hard currency. And if India and China are persuaded to buy oil off other people rather than Russia, and there's a lot of it about at the moment and it's cheap, so why wouldn't they? And also, what they don't want to do is to be tariffed even harder by the Americans. The American market is still the biggest market for the Indians and Chinese. So if that does happen, then I think Putin will have to come to the negotiation table. And this uptick in violence in drones that he's showing is sort of suggesting, he's throwing it all in, 40 days of hell for Ukraine, so that when Putin is dragged to the peace negotiation table by Trump in 40 days' time, he will be in a better position. But it's essential that we make sure that actually Ukraine is in a better position, because without a just peace, I'm sure the Ukrainian prime minister and the Ukrainian people will not sign up to it. They will keep fighting. And I think everybody in the world, perhaps except Putin, wants a ceasefire and a peace deal as soon as possible.